Hello, my AATS 8th hour. I thought you'd be excited to watch a video, and look, you get to watch me. I know you're really excited. So we're going to continue with Chapter 9 that we've been working on. So today we're going to go over 9.2 Day 2, and it's still in arithmetic sequences, which we've been talking about the last couple of days. So you should have the notes in front of you right now, and if you look at the top of your notes, you should see that the first 3 questions are warm-up problems. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to pause the video. I'd like you to complete the 3 warm-up problems, and then when you're finished with those 3 problems, you can then start the video to check your answers. So please pause the video now so that you can try the first 3 warm-up problems. Okay, let's check your answers and see how you did. So number 1 says, write the recursive formula for the sequence. We know it's a sequence because it is a list of numbers. So the first thing we want to do is recognize the pattern. So when you looked at these numbers, you should notice that from 4 to 14, you add 10. From 14 to 24, you also add 10. And then from 24 to 34, once again, you add 10. So if you remember from yesterday, that number that you add or subtract is called your common difference. So I'm going to write that down. The common difference here is a positive 10. So when we write our recursive formula, remember that's the formula that describes the pattern. So it describes the pattern, and the recursive formula uses a with a subscript n minus 1. So let's check our answer. So the answer should be to get any nth term that's going to be equal to the previous term, which is a subscript n minus 1, and then we would add 10 to it to get the next term. So that's the recursive formula for number 1. Number 2 says write the explicit formula for the sequence above, and notice I gave you the formula. So in order to plug this in the formula, we need to know 2 things. We need to know the first term, and we need to know the common difference. So the first term, looking up here at the sequence, so looking right here, you can see the first term is a 4. And we also need to know the common difference, and that was our value of 10. So let's take those 2 numbers and let's plug them in. So a sub n is equal to my first term, which is 4, plus the common difference, which we noticed you're adding 10 every time. So you would do plus 10, and then in parentheses, n minus 1. Let's go ahead and distribute that 10. So we have a sub n equals 4 plus 10n minus 10. When you distribute it and combining like terms, we have our final explicit formula of 10n minus 6. So that is your answer for number 2. There's our explicit formula. Why do we even write the explicit formula again? Remember, that's to find like the 100th term, the 200th term, so we don't have to keep adding 10 over and over and over again to get to the 100th term. So now we're going to use our explicit formula down here in number 3. When it says find A100, that means the 100th term for the sequence. So then A100 would equal 10 times 100 minus 6. So that would be 1,000 minus 6. And therefore your 100th term would equal 994. Did you get that right? If you did, good job. We can continue. So now we will move on to the new stuff. All right, let's take a look at example 1. It says the following sequences are arithmetic. Find the missing term. So remember, arithmetic. So remember, that's going to mean that in your sequence you can add or subtract the same number over and over again to get the next terms in the sequence. Remember, arithmetic is when you add or subtract. So looking over here at example A, I can see that the first number is 14. I need to fill in the second term, and I know the third term is 26. So I know I need to add a number because you're going from 14 to 26, and I know I need to add that number twice to get to 26. So I think, okay, to get from 14 to this missing number, I would have to add some value of d, so some common difference. Then to go to that term, I would have to add that same common difference. So basically I'm adding it twice. Well, what's the difference between 14 and 26? Well, the difference, if I do 26 minus 14, I can see the difference is 12. So I know between 14 and 26 the difference is 12, but I have to do 2 common differences. So I really think, okay, well there's 2 common differences and that needs to equal 12. Dividing both by 2 tells me that my common difference would be 6. So let's check if that makes sense. So if I have 14 and I add the common difference of 6, that would give me 20. Let's try it again. If I add the common difference of 6, I get 26. So that's how I know I've done it correctly, because it's arithmetic. I added the same number twice to get to 26. All right, let's look at B. So it's going to get a little harder here. Here it says the 19th term is 10 and the 20th term is 6. So just by looking at those two terms, you would be able to tell your difference. So when I went from the 19th term of 10 to the 20th term of 6, notice that I had to go down by 4. So basically that tells me that my common difference is -4. I would keep subtracting 4 to get to my next number. But this one asked me what was the very first term of the sequence, because they gave me the 19th and the 20th. So you need to think, well, the common difference, I would keep subtracting 4, but if I was going the other way, like back to the first term, I would have to keep adding 4 actually, because I'd be going to the first term. Because notice as the terms get smaller, the numbers get bigger. So if I want to go to the first term, I would have to keep adding 4 until I got to the first term. So if the 19th term is 10, let's start there. Then I would have to, remember we would be adding 4 every time we go to a smaller term. Well, how many of those 4s do I need to add? Well, you're going from the 19th term to the first term, so that would be 18 terms in between. So really you can just do this. So if I take 10 plus 4 times 18, that would give me 82. So therefore, I know that the first term would be 82. You know, think how many times you would have to add or subtract that common difference, and then that'll get you the number. All right, let's look at C. So in C, they tell me the first term is 8. They tell me the common difference is -3. I want to find the 16th term. Well, I could just start at 8 and keep subtracting 3 until I get to 16. But that would kind of take too long. So let's use our explicit formula. So remember, the explicit formula is A sub n equals A1 plus D parentheses n minus 1. So let's plug in what I know. I want to find the 16th term. So I want to find what A16. Fix that. Let's find what A16 is. So I would take the first term, which is 8, plus the common difference is -3, and then it would be n minus 1. And then notice the n, I now know the n is 16. Look, there's n, I wanted to find A16. So I can immediately plug in 16 minus 1. So if I do 8 plus -3 times 16 minus 1, that would give me -37. Therefore, I know the 16th term is -37. Okay, moving on to D. Look at this notation. So the A sub n minus 1, remember that means the term before A sub n. A sub n plus 1 will mean the term after A sub n. I want to find A sub n, the term right in the middle. So I'm going to kind of set this up. The term that comes before A sub n is 52. Then I'm going to leave a blank there because I don't know what A sub n is. A sub n plus 1, the term that comes after A sub n, would be 70. And then look, it's just like a problem like we had in A. We just need to find the middle term. So as I go from 52 to 70, let's see what that difference is. 70 minus 52. That gives me what, 18? So I know I need to add a difference, and I need to be 18 above. Well, that means I need to add 9 each time because I'm adding the difference twice. Remember, if you're adding 2 differences and you need to get a total of 18, dividing by 2, you can see that the difference would be 9. So if I start at the 52 and I add 9, that would give me 61. And then I always like to check the second one. If I add 9, do I get 70? 61 add 9, I do get 70. So that means a sub n is 61 with that setup. All right, the next two questions are you try. So right now I'd like you to pause the video. I would like you to try E and F, try the two you try problems. Once you're finished with those two problems, then you can restart the video. So please pause the video now so that you can do the two you try problems. Okay, let's check our answers and see how you did on these. So let's see, it says here, the following sequences are arithmetic. That's going to be helpful because that tells us we can add the same number or subtract the same number every time to get the other numbers in the sequence. Find the missing term. In part E, term 50 is 40, term 51, the term that comes right after it, is 47. So remember, that'll help you with your common difference when you go from 40 to 47. You can see that you had to increase by 7. So that's going to be your common difference. I want to know way back to what was the very first term. So I'm going to work in reverse. If I was going from term 50 to term 51 and I had to add 7, well, to go to the reverse direction, you would then have to subtract 7. So I'm going to start at the 50th term with 40. If I'm going backwards, back to the first term, I would then need to add a difference of -7 times how many of those I need. Well, I'm starting at term 50. I want to get to term 1. That's a difference of 49 terms. So I'm going to have to multiply -7 times 49 because you need to subtract that 7 49 times. So if I do 40 plus a -7 times 49 times, you need to subtract that 7, I get that the very first term is -303. And of course, feel free to pause this video at any time so that you can go back and fix that question if you didn't get it correct. In F, this is just like D that we just did. So you know the term that comes before a sub n is 17. I want to find a sub n. I know the term that comes after a sub n is 23. So to get from 27 to 23, that was a total of adding 6. Well, if I cut that difference in half, I would want to be adding 3 each time. So 17 plus 3 gives you 20. Let's check it. 20 plus 3, you do get 23. So 20 is your A sub n. So did you get both of those? If you did, great job. Again, if you didn't, I would pause the video right now and make those changes and fix those. All right, let's go on to the second page. So here we have some word problems. Don't worry, they look intimidating, but they're not too bad. Example 2 says the average score of your 2 quizzes last chapter was 92. If you got an 89 on the first quiz, what was your score on the second quiz? So really, if we know the average, we know the number in the middle. So if the average is 92, that means if I set up my 3 numbers, 92, since that's the average, would be the number right between those 2 scores. Well, you got an 89 on the first quiz, so I'm going to put an 89 in this spot. I want to know what goes here. I want to know what you got on the second quiz. I'm just going to find the common difference and then add it again. So from 89 to 92, I know I needed to add 3. I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to add 3. And then I know on the second quiz, my score must have been a 95. Remember, you can always check it. The average should be 92. So if I take 89 and add 95 and divide by 2, remember that's how you find an average. So 89 and 95 is 184. And if I take 184 and divide it by 2, there's my average of 92, which matches what I expected here on the problem. So video 1 is finished because I can only record up to 15 minutes, so please start video 2 now.